So imagine a team leader or a CEO sitting down at their desk. It's dark outside. They're sipping on their coffee. Before they really get into tasks or email, they type into their AI tool, help me write a tough message to my team about the quarter 2 numbers. As the model is working and thinking, answering back in about 14 seconds, he copies it, edits a sentence, and sends it off. He or she feels productive. What they don't notice, though, what no one typically notices is what the question revealed about their leadership, about how they show up to leadership, about who they are, about what they expect to get from an email like this. There was no request to help understand the dynamics of the team and why these second quarter numbers are what they are. He asked for it to help him write a difficult email. The thing he avoided was not the email. It was stepping into that leadership moment to figure out why and what we need to do about it. What we know based on the data, and we see this over and over, is that most leaders, the higher they go, are going to hide from that critical conversation. And AI is only going to make this problem worse. Welcome to Lunch with Chris. I go live on YouTube, noon Eastern time. So maybe you're having lunch with me. Today it's been running and gunning back to back. So coffee is my lunch. I'll get something after this. Maybe you're on the West Coast having breakfast. Either way, glad you're here. And as you think about your leadership and how you approach the challenge of leading, if you're leading up and you're seeing the deficiencies and insecurities and poor quality of leadership you're receiving, you're leading down, you're wondering if you're doing a good job, the doubt, the peer-to-peer leadership, what does my team think of me? How do they evaluate me? How do they see me? Let me name something you already know before we try to say anything new. You have probably at some level used AI this month, maybe this week, maybe this morning. And you've got it and it's fast and it's clean. I mean, unless you're using the free version, which is always going to be stupid. It can't even do basic math at that level. But you're offloading the hard parts and you're asking it for help. So you're asking it, I've done this. I'm just closing it. I've asked for help on writing a difficult email. I've asked for it to draft up things that I don't really want to work on. I mean, that was one of the craziest things that we saw last year as these AI tools spread more and more. One of the first ways that companies started to see it be used, performance reviews. Isn't that funny? Using AIs to write performance reviews. Why? Because people don't want to do it. I mean, I'd much rather live in a context where I'm relationally connected to someone and constantly encouraging them and giving them feedback about where they can improve or get better. I want the same thing. How weird would it be if I sat down with my kids or my wife once a quarter and said, let's go through a performance review? And in case you don't know it, a ton of those are weighted, WEIGHTED, such that the person reviewing you can't even give you a great score. It'll come down as a corporate edict. Like if it's 1 to 5, no 5s, 1 to 10, no 10s. It's a rigged game and it's crazy and it's insane. And what we're seeing AI is amplify this insecurity, this hiding that we do. We ask it to give us 3 options when we knew which one we already wanted, because hearing 3 made it feel like we really wrestled with the decision and not just our preference. I know that I have caught myself, and maybe you have too, reading what the model wrote and me going, yep, that's what I think. And I didn't notice that I actually ran the order backward, that I didn't bring a thought and ask for sharpening. I absorbed something and then made it mine. Here's a few specific moments that you might see yourself in or leaders you're connected to. It's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You have an argument with your spouse about something that a board member said in a meeting. You go to your home office and you open up your AI tool and you type, help me think through this conflict. And the model writes 4 bullet points for you. And they're good and they're balanced and they sound like wisdom. They make you feel less alone because leadership can be so lonely. But here's what you didn't type. You didn't type, What is it about being challenged in this moment that lands so hard for me? You type the conflict out, not what was actually happening in you, in how you show up as a leader. The model met you where you asked it to meet you, which is just at the surface level. And the reason this is such a pervasive form of hiding is because the model isn't going to be able to give you the deepest insights into your inner workings. It's not going to say to you, you're approaching that conflict in a place of powering up and trying to argue to be right because you think arguing about ideas is relational intimacy, but that's actually going to shut the other person down. You didn't have this awareness that said, you think you're keeping peace by avoiding that issue, not understanding that you're missing the diversity on your team by drawing that issue out and making peace. Maybe it's 6:40 a.m. on a Friday. You're sitting in your office, the team gets in. Your COO is at it and performing, and they've been killing it for 6 months. And today is the day you have to say something about a persistent issue. So you open up your AI tool and you type, write me a script for a hard conversation with a direct report who is underperforming. And the model writes you something perfect. And you read it, you can see yourself saying it, but then you put it into a Google Doc. It's a draft for another day. And when the conversation occurs, you don't have the courage to step into it because you make peace over really keeping it. The model gave you words, but you couldn't possess them and own them and put your name on it and stake a claim on it. 3 p.m. Wednesday, your leadership team is meeting. Somebody proposes a decision. 3 people start typing into their laptops. They are, air quotes, taking notes. They're actually typing into a chat box, asking the AI what to think. 2 people lean back to wait for them. 1 person opens a screen, types the prompt, and reads the answer out loud, as if she just thought of it. Nobody looks at each other. Nobody pushes back. Nobody disagrees. The meeting is efficient, but the meeting is dead. It's more boring than the worst B-level movie that doesn't know how to edit the scenes for what should be cut out. And the leader walks out thinking, I ran a great meeting, when what she actually did was perform a confirmation ritual with a ton of extra steps in theater. Here's a thought for you. When was the last time you asked AI a question that you would have been afraid to ask another human? What does that tell you about what you might be avoiding? If your team this week had to guess which message is from your guts or which message is from AI, would they know? Would they know? Here's the thesis. There are a ton of people, and this is only going to get worse, going to AI to get validation that they're thinking clear on something, that they're leading well. And they didn't go in ready to be challenged, ready to be made better, ready to grow. Here's what the data says, and what almost all the commentary I see on AI missing, and the conversation bigger at large in terms of leadership. The data from our research shows this. 87% of senior executives in whatever organization you find yourself in, for-profit, nonprofit, school, home, education, military, manufacturing, construction, tech, software as a service, I don't care. We know most leaders, 87% of the leadership team, is going to fall into a place that they hide. And at the C-suite layer, it gets even worse. This is why what's being said right now is that the most delusional people in the organization about using AI are the people at the top, because they hide from some of the harder issues, from really being honest about how it looks like at the street level to deploy something. And so I see some patterns emerge, and I wonder if you see some of these patterns. I see rigid leadership hardening like never before. AI is accelerating this. There's somebody who's afraid of making the wrong decision, and now they have an AI that mirrors back this police force crusading style energy. That the thing that's lacking is a clear right and wrong. And so they have the moral policing energy in their head, but they don't actually know how to walk through the conversation and the mess of it to help 2 people that have 2 different conclusions come to a place of wisdom. I see it as a controlling leader who now has a tool that lets them micromanage at a scale that wasn't previously possible. So that's why a lot of these organizations now are talking about we're taking out the middle management layer. We're taking out that layer of people that are coordinating information because they falsely think all that middle management layer is doing is coordinating information. A great manager isn't just coordinating information. A great manager is interacting between lots of different players and perspectives, and they have a different movie in their head about the moment and what makes a great leader and their own insecurities and their own strengths and their own brilliance and their own darkness. And all of that cooks into what makes an actual great team. But this leader at scale thinks, because I have this AI that gives me visibility, I can see all. And I think at some level, the literature here is so powerful. Any of you that have hung around our podcast for any number of years, we podcast regularly. We're fans of the Lord of the Rings story because it has timeless truth baked into it. And the eye of Sauron is this eye, this all-seeing eye in this tower, and it's menacing and it's pervasive and its scope is so wide, and you don't want to get under the ire of that eye. And that's what's going to happen for a lot of leaders. They're going to be empowered in a false way with this full view that they think they have of the data, and they're going to see the numbers and miss the person. The hiding leader now has a more sophisticated place to hide because AI can draft that hard email and generate that performance review and produce that strategic plan. But the thing that was missing was never the document. It was the leader's willingness to be in the room, to be vulnerable, and for that magic to happen. And this is not pie in the sky thinking. The best leadership meetings, the best conversations with my wife, the best conversations with my kids, there's a magic moment. It's better than a movie. It's a volley of vulnerability back and forth as we wrestle down to the ground with a clarity about what's actually happening. What's the hard fought for wisdom in this moment? And how does it translate to a deeper and better relationship? There's a story that my mind goes to. A couple thousand years ago, there was a teacher in the Middle East who was being followed by a crowd. They're following him because they want to be near his power. And he turns around in the middle of the road and asks a question that is on its face very, very simple. He doesn't ask this question, what do you believe? He says this, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? Tell me the thing that you don't yet have words for. Tell me the thing that you're asking is actually wondering about. Most of them couldn't answer. Some of them leave. A few stay and asked, where are you staying? Which sounds like a logistic question, but it's actually an identity question. Because here's what they were saying. Based on your accent, you sound like you're from Galilee. Nothing good comes from Galilee. Where are you rooted? What holds you? Because if I'm going to follow you, I want to know what holds you when everything else falls apart. Here's the thing that we're going to be talking about for a number of weeks and months in the days ahead. AI is not the problem. It'll probably be a net negative for society. It is a net positive for me in the way that I use it. It'll probably be a net negative for society. But AI is the question turned back on you, because every prompt you write is an X-ray. The question you ask reveals what you're most concerned about. The thing that you outsource shows the things that show and reveal and surface and bring to the forefront your greatest insecurities. And if you don't have awareness on this, you're going to train that tool to mirror back what you want to hear, your greatest insecurities. The thing that was missing isn't the email. It's not the performance review. It's not the document. It's the willingness for leaders to be in the room, to be in that volley of vulnerability, to be in that place. That's the bridge. And that's what AI is going to show. It's going to show who are the people that can become not just an artificial intelligence, but a human intelligence. One question I'd love for you to sit with this week. It's just this. In your use of AI this week, if you were to imagine it as like an MRI of your leadership, what would the radiologist see? What are you seeing for yourself? What are you feeding on? What are you eating as we do this lunch with Chris? Here's 3 practices this week that can help you. These are helping me. Number 1, I tend to write the first thing that's hard on paper and pen. If you saw my workflow, you would see a lot of scattered papers in the mix and throw of wrestling with hard issues. Before I'm going to digital, before I'm going to, and I don't really type, I hit a button and just talk and it transcribes it. Before I do that, I'm trying to sharpen it through a writing process. Now, that may not be your workflow, but you have to develop the ability to not go get an affirmation for a solution that you don't yet have the full clarity of what the problem really is. Or it's going to give you ideas for days that are going to distract you, that are going to confuse you, that are going to distort you. Can you really name what the real problem is? So, a practice for me, I write first. Second practice, I ask the AI to question me on where I'm afraid, where I'm trying to avoid something. Think about it like this. If you're in a place that you're wondering and you're feeling a doubt, that doubt is not something to use the AI to cover up. That doubt is something that you want to get fully named. The AI isn't going to give you your best imaginative insight on what to do with that doubt. It's not going to give you the best hard fought for wisdom, but it can be a thoughtful, helpful sparring partner. The model can help you find the real question of doubt. That's for you as the human to wrestle with, to hug that doubt, to learn from it, to be transformed by it. Don't just ask for the surface level Band-Aid fixes. Write out what that real hard problem is, and then figure out what you're afraid of in regards to that problem. And I've used AI in a profound way to say, what might I be afraid of here? Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. I'm developing that wisdom within myself. Third practice. I think this is going to be more important than ever in the future we're stepping into. You need a time and a space. I'm pointing out here because we have trees, that you walk outside and you learn to tap into the greater intelligence that's around you and pull down insight that the tool is never going to get you to. It's as simple as a digital detox, but whatever this looks like for your workflow, I'm making sure that I'm not rushing to something and skipping over my ability to receive that insight. This is why in our premier coaching program, and you'll have an opportunity to join one of our rolling groups on it, figure that shift out. When we start introducing people to the solution of figuring out how to develop their own generative insight as a leader, we get them out in nature to learn to receive something outside of themselves that makes them wiser and smarter. That's what I do. That's what I would do to protect myself, to grow, to learn, and to be wise. So look for this. We're releasing research on what this looks like at the street level. We're putting academic veracity behind it. We're putting timeless wisdom behind it to help you as the leader show up and live what we're calling the 3% shift. If you train your AI well, it'll converse with you better than 97% of humans. We back that up in the research. It'll do better work than 97% of humans. How do you live in that 3%? How do you be that kind of leader who knows how to pull that insight creatively down, applies it with wisdom, and develops deepening and lasting transformative relationships? So glad you were here today. Feel free to throw in the chat what stood out to you from our time, something that you're going to take with you. Feel free to throw in questions. We'll make space for questions for a moment as we conclude this week's Lunch with Chris YouTube Live. I'll hang tight for a second. May we be the kind of leaders who don't lead for our own validation, especially using AI, but lead for impact. Peace.